All right, looks like we're live. I will call this meeting to order, the Policy Committee of the Board of Education at 6:01 on June 7th. I know we've got a curriculum meeting after this, so we'll make sure that we stop, a few minutes before 7. Give everybody a little break. All right, so first item on our agenda today is Policy 6172.6, the online courses credit. Ms. Gillette will take us through that. I think we started to talk about it in our last policy meeting. This is one where we don't currently have a policy for this, but we need one. And we're actually covered through June 30th because in our temporary COVID policy packet, there is one that takes us through June 30th. But anyway, that's why we're talking about it today. So with that, I'll hand it over.
Okay, thank you. So it was initially a bit of a challenge for me looking at the two policies to see where we would fall, but thanks to all the help at the high school and my learning and digging into what current practices, I feel like what I've put together for you tonight, which is literally a combination of the two policies, really helps accomplish really two goals that we had. So we wanted to make sure we had a policy that honored the current practice at the high school, but we also wanted to make sure that we didn't have a policy that would limit the use of online courses in ways that we perhaps may not have imagined yet. So if it's okay, I'd like to take you through a couple paragraphs and a couple points and then hear some feedback. So if you look in paragraph 1, one of the parts that was really important to us was that the schools can offer courses to enhance, supplement, or enrich the existing curriculum. In paragraph 2, we thought that it was important to note that these online courses would increase accessibility and flexibility of the delivery of instruction. I think everyone in this committee knows that this is the first year that for course recovery, we're using an online platform called Edmentum, which has a component where the courses can be designed to meet the course, to match the courses offered by our high school. So all the department chairs went through the courses in Edmentum to make sure that they match. So that's a new platform that we haven't had before. And I think that fits with that accessibility and flexibility component there in the policy. So paragraph 3 is really talking about what we expect of an online course. And the most important element there is the regional accreditation. That's in line with current high school practices. Moving down to the last paragraph on the first page, paragraph 5, we thought that this was a good outline of the circumstances where kids might take an online course. Moving into the second page, paragraph 6 is talking about permission. Again, that made sense with current practice. At the very bottom there, under additional requirements, one thing that's newer to the high school is the option for 9th and 10th graders to be eligible for online course credit. But because the policy has so many restrictions and really if it's an enrichment, they have to get it approved. We felt like that was fine to include 9 through 12 there. So we feel like this does hit those two main goals that I talked about at the beginning. And those were the main points that I think serve to back it up.
Great, thank you. That was a great summary, actually, helping us kind of figure out, like you said, you brought parts of both policies together, so that's helpful.
I spent a lot of time in it, Margaret, as you saw.
That's great. That's awesome. Questions from committee members? Go ahead, Ken.
I had this one is probably just it's not substantive at all. But in the first paragraph on the first page, why is effective in parentheses?
That was directly from CABE. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess effective meaning that it can be as good as a non-online. I'm not sure. I think it's a little semantics.
Can we comma and get rid of the parent?
Yeah, it's weird that it's the parentheses.
Yeah. It's also in the same paragraph, we talk about interactive distance learning. And then elsewhere in the policy, we talk about distance education. I'm presuming it's the same thing. Could we use the same term throughout?
Corey, is the reason that perhaps that's the case is part of it's coming from Shipman and part of it's coming from CABE?
I don't.
The second to last paragraph, I mean, second to last sentence in paragraph 1, interactive distance learning does not require.
CABE is, sorry, not McCabe. CABE is the first 3 paragraphs. So where did you see it again? Different?
Well, like in the second paragraph, in the last sentence, the students.
Yeah, that's from them. They use the synonym. So
Is there a difference between the two?
I don't think so.
Then we
Yeah.
should, I think we should be consistent throughout. Just
Your preference, which distance learning or distance education?
You're not questioning the interactive piece, Ken. You're just questioning the difference between distance learning and distance education.
yeah, just that they should be consistent. I like the interactive because it just personally, you can just sit there and have somebody drone on to you without you having feedback or interaction.
Yeah,
With,
I think interaction is very important. And I think
so.
that's in more than one place.
Well, so when I read that, I know it's semantics here, but the second paragraph, you can't delete education and put in learning there because it doesn't line up. And I feel like they're talking about something. It's the same, but it's not.
Okay.
One is they're talking about the program holistically, and the second they're talking about the outcome.
active learning.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I do see them as different.
I can see that. Yep. Okay. I did have a question on the last paragraph there. Regarding the dropout rate. The second sentence, these students, once identified by certified personnel, must be allowed. Is that?
Where are you, Ken?
Are we?
The second sentence in the last paragraph on the first page, fourth paragraph. These students, once identified by certified personnel, must be allowed to complete. Is there a reason we wouldn't let them complete it? Are there circumstances under which if it was just the child just stopped coming to school? Is that so, or some other, I don't know, I'm just making that up.
You know what, I think that perhaps it's protecting the student's access, meaning that this doesn't become a budget concern and that the student has access. Once it's approved, there isn't going to be, well, we just didn't budget for that. That could be the interpretation, but I'm actually still having a hard time finding where it is, Ken.
Hi.
Oh, my actual question.
Yeah.
So that the paragraph that begins, if the dropout rate of the district. That paragraph.
And you're on the first page?
Yeah.
You know what? I think you're looking at the non-revised version. I think that's the full CABE policy that you're looking at. And this one that we're looking at is the one that I put together that Margaret sent on Sunday. That was my overdoing it and then fixing
Maybe
it.
you're right. I think you're right.
Because I do remember that sentence from the CABE policy.
Now I found it. I found it on the recommended document, Ken, but on the one that Margaret sent right on Monday, mine actually has handwritten notes.
Oh, wait. I'm looking at the hard copies. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just thought it was the hallucination from the heat
Yeah,
again.
because I kept looking at for that sentence.
That's my excuse.
So I was starting to get concerned for my health.
I was like, I can't count paragraphs.
That's okay, that's
And
okay.
if you're looking in the hard packets, you might not have it because that was printed before we.
No, I know, I remember now vaguely getting the email that this is-
Actually, if it helps though, Ken, that paragraph, that if the dropout rate paragraph is gone,
Yes, it's gone.
That helps a lot.
and yes, and then the next, and then we start again at the Board of Education recognizes.
Yep.
I know, shame on me.
No, listen, I'm glad it wasn't me.
All right, I have it. I think I have it. Okay, sorry, I apologize to everyone.
No.
It's good. Keeping us on our toes.
All right.
Kendra,
Okay, so I'm gonna mute myself. I want to interrupt again for a
That's
minute.
helpful. So can I just go back, Ken, up on top where the word effective, you were suggesting just add alternative comma, effective comma means, right? Just no need for parentheses? Or are you saying to get
Or just
effective?
one comma. I don't think it needs to be offset at all. Just alternative effective means.
Okay,
Or just, yeah, I think you need both. Yeah.
thank you.
Or maybe even flip them, an effective alternative means. Either one.
Yeah, I think that works better, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Nora, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, mine was just a point of clarification that this is all referring to virtual or online courses not being offered by RHS, correct? They're by specified virtual schools only in this. It's not like virtual classes you might take from RHS teachers.
You know what, that's because you're right. It is talking about online courses that are offered by other institutions. It's not until the very last paragraph where it talks about really the last line, which would be where RHS teachers would provide that, like we did during COVID-19.
It's protecting for both.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes. So that's why it's written in vague enough way, I think, so that if we were in this position again, that
It would qualify.
they would.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you look at paragraph 3, all those requirements of an online course, the high school would meet those.
And that, Tina, did I see your hand earlier?
Oh, yeah, please, yeah.
Okay. Nora, did you have anything else? And I know Ken had. All right, Ken, go ahead.
Tina didn't, I don't want
No.
to. So now I'm on the correct policy, I believe. So on the section where we're delineating the credits from online or virtual course or university college may be earned only in the following circumstances. On number 7, where the student has failed a course and wishes to recover credits in that course area, that's just going to be allowed across the board, or is there some type of with the principal's approval, the student's teacher, the guidance? Or is that just, I failed a course, so I want to make it up, and according to this policy, I can?
Well, maybe check and see, because the next paragraph talks about how you have to have permission. So I don't know if you feel like it's out of order. Because the permission part is before
I just
you can take it.
okay. I just like for example, the one right above it, the principal with agreement from the student's teachers, parents, guardians determines the student requires. So that's I'm actually okay with that.
Obtain written approval of
It
principal.
was a question, because sometimes we're determining it and sometimes we're not.
Right. It should feel like
Okay.
in that permission paragraph that we are saying, yes, you get to take this course recovery.
Okay.
Program.
So long as there's written approval.
Right. But again, that's something to think about if you think the permission needs to go before
Only be earned in the policy.
paragraph 5. which talks about the credit.
Could,
We
would,
need-
if we did something like at the beginning of that, in the following circumstances with appropriate approval, boom, and then we list those and then we talk about what is appropriate approval, which would be the next 4 bullets. Does that change what we're trying to say?
I mean, I defer.
I'm going to try that, Corey, from now on to defer. I
I
actually
don't know.
I think it's either or is fine, Ken. I think, you know, you have the 7 or the 8 reasons, right, that you can obtain, that a student might require the special course, right? And then beyond that, if you're looking for permission, then you have to do those, it, you know, it has to be part of that, the 4 bullets. So I feel like the policy is short enough
Okay.
that it's pretty clear to me, at least. I mean, I don't think it would matter if you wanted to change the order. If
It's not changing the order. It would be, I would like, if we just kept it maybe earned only in the following circumstances, comma, with appropriate permission. Boom, here are the things, and then here's appropriate permission, or that's the wrong word, or the wrong term. But to your point, if it's short enough, if you feel it's short enough, then.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, me personally, I see that, okay, here's the reasons in which you can actually earn.
Yep.
And then
Is what you need to do to do.
here's what you need to do in order to
Okay.
do it.
Yep.
Or here's what you need to have in order to do it. I think
Right,
it's
yes,
clear.
right. Okay. And
It was actually less clear in Corey's original draft, the one that we were looking at earlier.
Right.
I think because it was so verbose that it didn't
You're right. No, you're
outline it
right.
as clearly.
maybe I'm just stuck on that. And we're gonna take out like the CABE references. Are we gonna take those out in the final?
Yes.
Okay. It's just references for us. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this, or do we feel as a committee this is okay to bring to the board for first read with those adjustments to that effective alternative in the first paragraph, taking out the references? I think that was it, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay to bring it forward at our next meeting for first read? Good. Awesome. All right. Anything else on that one? All right. Yay.
All right, Corey, thanks.
Thank you.
First policy in.
Woo! Throw out the balloons. All right, so this next policy hopefully is a pretty quick one as well. So this is the green cleaning program. We've never, just like the one we just did, we haven't had a program, we haven't had a policy before, but it's one where both CABE and Shipman had recommended that we have one. It's actually in the temporary COVID policy packet that sunsets. And when we actually adopted that packet, you guys may remember that we found out that in practice, we're already doing this.
Yep.
So why not have the policy to comport with policy to comport with practice? Plus, I think we should do it. I don't know, Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, everything that we're doing, which is found on the facilities tab on the RPS website, contains the green cleaning letter and then the product listing by school. And so we're in complete
compliance with this
Yeah.
policy that you're
Yep.
bringing forward already.
Yeah, so if you guys want to just put a policy in place, that's fine, but this is something that gets updated every July 1st.
Good. Any board member questions on it? Any reason we wouldn't want to adopt the policy? Like I said, Shipman actually recommended we had the policy already. So I think, go ahead, Ken.
On number 4, including the statement, no parent, guardian, teacher, or staff member may bring into the school facility any consumer product which is intended to clean, deodorize, sanitize, or disinfect. Isn't one of the more commonly requested items from teachers are handy wipes, sanitation wipes, used to clean and disinfect the desks?
Yeah, this is kind of pre-COVID. All that language is pre-COVID, and I think we've kind of suspended things during COVID, but it will go back to that once
I'm
things.
actually referring to pre-COVID.
It's always been in effect pre-COVID.
Well, I'm just saying, but teachers do request that, like handy wipes and that type of thing from students. When teachers make requests, that's.
Oh, you mean baby wipes like that?
Baby
As
wipes,
a,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't practice operationally. They may ask for them. I mean, Joe, do you know anything about that? If that's something that,
I just know that a lot of it comes through special ed as far as if it's on a special request, a medical request or something.
no, but I think what Ken is describing is a little bit different, is when teachers send out the requests at the start of the year, in particular at the elementary level. Ken, correct me if I'm wrong. They'll
Yep.
say, can I have 2 tissue boxes and a package of baby wipes for every kid? Because they want the quick cleanups. And so Ken, is your question whether or not those baby wipes fall into the green cleaning program?
Yeah,
Or-
is that a violate, I use the term violation loosely, but does
Yeah.
it violate number 4 there, the statement that no parent may bring into school any consumer products that,
No, it's a good question. I mean,
is that for cleaning the classroom versus cleaning somebody's hands? Is that the, like personal hygiene is not?
I would have to say it's more for personal hygiene.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then yes, then it's fine. You wipe your hands after snack with a baby wipe, let's say. If it's intended to clean the spill up after snack, then it would be a quote unquote violation of the policy, Ken.
Right. So we'd have to revert to one of our cleaners, one of our approved cleaners.
Okay. It was more.
Because if there are approved cleaners, let's just say COVID cleaners, right? Those are perfectly appropriate, but it's unlikely that families are picking those up, and rather they're picking up like Huggies baby wipes to send to school. So I think, again, if it's for the kids clean your hands after snack, it's one thing, but if it's for the purpose of cleaning the desks, let's just say, then it's another conversation.
I just anecdotally know that Lysol wipes were pretty
Yes.
popular.
So those are not allowed.
Right. Those aren't allowed.
So part of this then is a communicate, because I think that's what this paragraph is really talking about, a written statement from the district, a notice. So parents would be on notice that they couldn't have something that was like Lysol
Yeah.
wipes.
So we'll need to prepare for that.
Because the alternative to that is taking out number 4 and saying, hey, that is a common practice in elementary schools. We're okay with it. Let's remove number 4 as a prohibition. But I don't know. that-
I'm not sure that we'd want to do that.
Right, that's why I'm saying, it feels like that was the alternative. Sorry, Ken? Go ahead, Ken. Ken?
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 Oh, I froze, so I missed all of that. So please forgive me if this has been asked and answered. But in that same paragraph, the provide the notice, it says upon request. Is that something that we just want to make sure we just notify everyone?
We'll notify everyone. Yeah.
So maybe then just remove the upon request in that case, or it's unnecessary in that case if we are going to
Well,
notify.
yeah, or we can
Oh.
point them to the website. I mean, yeah. We have a full listing of everything. So if anybody needs it upon request, I mean, we can always point them to the website.
Oh, I'm just saying if we're going to make sure that we communicate it in order to make sure they know that number 4 is a thing.
I think the
So
only thing
I think they're saying, oh, sorry, Dawn, I feel like they're saying two different things, though. The board shall provide the staff of each school
Yep.
a written statement of blah, blah, blah. And then I think it's different for the parents. And upon request, the parents and guardians of each school will receive the written statement. I'm reading that a little bit differently. I don't know if anyone else is.
I read it like you do. So-
Right, but then we're saying such notice shall include 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 being no parent shall bring. But how's a parent going to know to request the notice? It's going to tell them.
So they're two different things, Ken. I don't know if you froze. The way that I'm reading this is that we're letting our staff know of 1 through 5. They're going to know, we're telling them. And so if they know 4, then they're not asking parents to send in Clorox wipes or Lysol wipes.
Right.
Whereas for parents, if you want more information about green cleaning and all of our procedures, then you're going to be, upon your request, Joe's going to refer you to the website where you can find all of the information, or to the handbook where it might refer you to the website where it has all the information.
Right.
That's the way I'm reading that, but
Yep.
I froze again. I missed the very beginning. So we're going the teacher, we're going to inform the teachers, and the teachers are not going to request it. Is that
right? The way that I'm reading this policy, it's our obligation to let faculty know, all of our faculty know 1 through 5. And as a result of them knowing 1 through 5, number 4, they're not going to request that from the parents. So the Clorox wipes are gone. If a parent wants more information about our green cleaning procedures, if they don't get that from the handbook, we would refer them to the website.
is it included in the handbook?
I think there typically is, I don't know here in Ridgefield, but there's typically, it'll say something like your green cleaning procedures and then where they can find that information. So if it's not, then we should be sure that it is.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions from other board members? All right, so I think this one is okay to also bring forward at our next meeting for a first read. No changes, right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the next item on here is 6111, which is school calendars. I think Dr. De Silva will walk us through that. And I apologize, I sent probably about an hour ago an email with the CABE model policy, which I think is the one we'll probably work off of as the template, right, Dr. De Silva?
Yes. And actually that we should have sent that along. So that wasn't you, Margaret.
And if you look at ours, it's like 1993, so it's time.
Well, and so the reason it actually bubbled up is because last year during COVID, I was told that we had to create a calendar for 3 school years. And it appears that there was the can's been kicked down the road by a number of superintendents saying, okay, the next superintendent will create the calendar for 3 years, and the next one and the next one. And so I was asked to create the 3 years given our policy. And so really it's in year 2, the second year of the 3-year cycle, you would then adopt a 3-year school calendar. And so because that practice, in my opinion, it felt a little bit antiquated. And I also went and reached out to every school district that I could to find out what their calendars look like, because as you know, we oftentimes will not necessarily compare, but we do try to line up somewhat similarly to our peers because we bring in a lot of teachers from our neighboring communities. So you don't want to be completely off from every school community. Well, no one has calendars outside of a couple of school districts that have 22, 23 or in the process of putting those up for board approval. So we're drafting our 22, 23 calendar for the board to review, but asking us at this point to reach out 3 years doesn't feel like that makes sense. Certainly the K policy, you'll notice that to assist both staff and school staff and parents with planning, multiple school year calendars are preferred, and understandably we agree, but 3 years, not so much. So that's why we're looking to go with the K version which also leaves us some autonomy in making that decision. If it doesn't make sense right now, given the circumstances, there are definitely some things up in the air. For example, the State Department hasn't decided on snow days. Do we have the luxury of waiting to make sure that it makes sense to prepare a calendar? So that's why the difference between the two, and primarily in the K version, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs, if you want to call them that, in where it starts off with to benefit children and school staff, multiple year school calendars are preferable, is one of the differences in our policy. In 1, 2, 3, 4th line, it says that the superintendent will make every effort to present his or her calendar recommendation to the board for consideration on or around February 1st. I missed that deadline. In the second year of the 3-year cycle, we missed that one too. And that the board shall adopt a three-year school calendar at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. So that's why this is here.
Questions from board members? Obviously, that I think that middle section that's got the square box in it and the CABE recommended policy, that we would not have that in. I don't think we need that, right?
Right. Right. Oh, yes, correct. So
Um,
just to give you a frame of reference, we have the 21-22 school year that we're living in. We have 22-23 ready. And we'd be preparing for you in the next, either for June 14th or June 24th, the 22-23 school year. So you'd have next year's plus one more year for the purpose of planning. And again, I don't have the comparables to even give you because no other school district, we only have 2 school districts that have the 22-23 ready, and no other school district has gone out further than that.
Do we need to go out farther than that?
I don't think we do. I actually don't think it makes sense to, Ken, for the reasons I described earlier. And I also think that we learn and grow. This is the first year that we're going to have a February break, right?
Yep.
I think you would have come after that, but that's okay. This year, this coming year is the first year for a February break. So we have to assess that situation, right? Let's see what that looks like for kids. What does attendance look like right before? What does attendance look like right after? You may hear a different recommendation after a few years out that it no longer makes sense. Or depending upon snow days and how that impacts us. So asking to go much further out without having an opportunity to modify and adjust, I don't think is reasonable, and it doesn't make sense.
I had a question about the second to last paragraph. I think this was the desire when we were trying to do the uniform calendar. I don't know that that's still an initiative anymore. So is that an irrelevant?
That is irrelevant, Margaret. I meant to say that. So you might remember that at one point, the regional educational service centers required that school districts have a uniform calendar, despite the fact that many school districts in district reference group A decided to ignore that request and created their own calendars anyway. There were some school districts that did stick to the regional calendar. And so at some point, I think when they saw so many school districts, I think diverging, that requirement, I don't know if that's really the reason, I'm hypothesizing, but that requirement is gone. So we would remove that, Margaret, if the board agreed to move forward with the CAPE version.
And does that also apply to the following paragraph that school can start either before or after Labor Day?
I think that one's fine to keep in, but that was a shift with the regional educational calendars, is that they were allowing after 2019-20 for school districts to do, so we can eliminate it and it doesn't need to be there, or it's fine to be there. But you're right, Ken, we could start in, July 3rd.
July, right? Yeah, that's
right.
Do we want to remove it? Is it just, just empty words?
It's empty words, I would say.
It reads like empty words.
Yeah.
All right, so let's remove it then. I had this is just more like just a slight thing, but I did notice a slight difference. So where it talks about in our old policy, the first sentence says the regular school year shall consist of at least 180 school days, which we know is statutory, right? But in the CABE model policy, it doesn't actually use that same language, but it does refer to the graduation date not being earlier than the 180th day. It's a slight nuance, but it is a different way of approaching that 180 days.
Well, it does say in that first sentence with CABE that it's meeting all statutory requirements to the Board of Education. So if the statutory requirement changed to 181, we don't have to worry about our policy as long as we're meeting the statutory requirements. That's how I interpret that.
Yep. No, yeah, I agree with you on that. I saw that too. Any questions from other board members on this one? Okay.
But,
Go ahead, Ken.
so following that logic, the graduation date, should we mention the 180th day, or should we also refer to the statutory requirements? Again, in order, because if they change, then and it's 181, now we are going to have to amend the policy to say graduation date, which is no earlier than 181 days. Kind of the same point that Margaret was bringing up.
It's a different statutory section, right, on that one?
Yeah.
Graduation.
Huh.
But you're right, Ken, it is determined by statute, like that's in there for the statute.
So the logic lines up. The logic is the same. So if I were to take that out, I probably would want the language of graduation to go up above. So meeting all statutory requirements, including a firm graduation date somewhere in there, Margaret. So we could change the language a little bit. So if we were to get rid of this,
Yeah.
or we could keep this, and instead of saying, which is no earlier than the 180th day, we could just say statutory requirements also.
Or it may establish for any school year a firm graduation date which meets all statutory requirements.
Requirements. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, if our goal is to future-proof the policy, I think that makes sense.
It's more consistent. All right, so the changes I saw here are, it's just that, well, it's the removal of the middle box, the removal of the last two paragraphs. So it actually, the policy will end with that paragraph that says to benefit children, ding, 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 to your school calendars. And then in the fourth paragraph, the board in establishing a graduation day may establish for any school year a firm graduation date which meets all statutory requirements.
Right.
Does that capture everything? Great. Does the committee feel okay moving this one to the full board too? All right. Great. All right, Dr. DeSantis, it's your time.
Hey, I'm back. I don't think we're going to get through all of these. So I'm curious if people would like me to do what I think are the slam dunks first, or we can go in order. It's up to you, Margaret. What would you like me to do?
Let's do the slam dunk. I think I know which one you're talking about.
So the slam dunk would be number 5. That's, I think, a really easy one to start with. The personal network devices. This is a very old policy where, as it's written, it could either be interpreted as a device that logs onto the network, but as its modern interpretation of reading it currently would be if I bring in an outside device that creates a network, which we no longer allow. We have enough network everywhere in the schools. I believe this policy is put in a very long time ago, back when we did not have wireless networks. I remember, there were a few little wireless areas in the schools for certain things, but now we have full coverage in all the buildings. We just don't need this policy anymore. There shouldn't be a student or teacher bringing their own wireless network system in. They should be using ours.
And when I looked at the Shipman and the CABE websites, neither one of them has this model policy anymore, which means they probably sunsetted it themselves. And we just
Exactly. So we good?
Are we good? So what this one is, so we're recommending this one for deletion. So we can, again, but we have to go through that same process of coming before the board twice. So we'll bring this forward with that recommendation that it be deleted.
Great. I think the next one, which is, I think, very easy for me, my interpretation would be actually number 4, employee guidelines for electronic communication. If you look at our original policy, it's incredibly granular. It's very old. It even mentions MySpace, so I could tell you how dated it is. But it's very granular to a point where it's almost unusable. Like, it's just like, you can't take a photo of someone without written permission. And it's like, well, this was written well before social media and a lot of how we would portray media in our schools. I looked at both the CABE and Shipman and Goodwin policy. I do like the Shipman and Goodwin policy more because it's more concise. It puts the onus more on the user's reasoning and why they're doing it. So if it just puts it down, like, is it interferes? Is it disrupt? Does it undermine operations? Is it engaging harassment, defamatory? So we're not saying you took a photo of a thing. In a granular sense, it's saying, are you using social media for, negative reasons? So any comments on that one? I believe that I think it broke it down to 5 subsections that are each a sentence each, and it's pretty concise. It's pretty straightforward. It's saying don't use social media to do bad things.
I think one thing just to note from our current RPS policy, because if we go with the Shipman model, it talks only about social media, and our current policy says social media, like social networking and electronic communications. So I just want to note for the board that electronic communications that's in our current policy, that's actually been parceled out and is now part of 4118.5 that we're also talking about. So that's why it's okay as we look to a new model that Dr. DeSantis is talking about, that we're only talking about the social media portion of that. Was that clear? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Took me a while to figure that one out.
Yeah, it took me, and then it's like a bad SAT problem with all these numbers that are so close together. Because they keep shifting the policies up by like 0.01, and I'm like, wait, which one am I on? But I do like the Shipman and Good one. It does remove it, and when we get to these other ones, you'll see that some of the K policies will include like student stuff, but we put it in a different one. So they kind of shift around a little bit when it comes to technology. But we do most of these, we do all of them actually. It's just whether or not it's contained in this policy or maybe in a student policy.
So I feel like last time we did talk about this policy a little using the Shipman version, and tell me if I'm wrong, but was there a question about coaches using the high school logo for commercial gain? Was a question under this policy and how that might play out? Am I on the wrong policy?
So
Yeah.
with respect to social media, Margaret,
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
have that in my notes. I had a couple things.
Yes.
I do remember that now.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Karen.
that did come
Yeah.
up. No, that did come up as an example where people were using the Tiger and Ridgefield High School and stuff to promote, their summer coaching program, not Ridgefield High School. And we have asked in the past that they take that down.
So an example is if I'm this phenomenal pickleball, right? That's what we used, Ken, if you remember. If I'm a phenomenal RHS pickleball coach, and now I have my own private company that offers pickleball classes during the summer, that I'm not using my Ridgefield Public Schools pickleball championship logo on my private company's social media page. That was the example that we used, or something like that, Margaret.
It was, and we said it could be in your resume for sure, but you're not going to use our logo for your Facebook account.
Your private business.
Correct.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I don't, someone could post it, look what I did on Facebook, and they're not doing it for financial gain. They're just, they're
Right.
saying, hey, look at the thing I did. But you're absolutely right. If they're using it as some sort of business, and, we are actually branding our schools now, which is a thing. So we want to make sure that people don't use that stuff outside. So we know that this is a Ridgefield school function. It is sanctioned by us.
So under what policy would that be covered?
I'm not sure that is it in a policy, or is it in our, it is in our acceptable use. In our acceptable use for faculty. I think it is there. Let me,
That's where it is too, Susie.
Yeah.
which we don't have in front of you, Ken,
Yeah,
but it's in
is
our
it-
acceptable use for faculty.
Yeah, it doesn't fall directly under technology. It just falls under usage of school,
Okay.
So
intellectual
order-
property.
Right, in order for our like at the start of the year, right, they go through all of the acceptable use of technology, and that's included there.
Mm.
Ken, where they cannot use our logos for their own gain, financial gain.
So should it be in a policy, or is that okay? That's fine. I mean, if we're covering it, we're covering it.
It's in a policy.
Yeah, I mean, it could, I mean, I wouldn't put it in the social media policy. I feel like that's a broader topic, Ken, which is fine.
As long as it's somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Any questions on I would like to use the Shipman and Goodwin social media policy. I think we good, everyone.
I think everyone's all good.
All right.
Excellent. So we can, no changes on this. We can move this to the full board as well.
Actually,
Great.
yeah. So just to go, Ken, just to go back to your question, 4118.5, 4218.5. Are we getting to that, Wes?
Which one? 441. Wait, can you say that again? I got.
4118.5, acceptable computer network use,
Yes, we could do that one next.
because that answers part of your question,
Yeah.
Ken. If we're going to consider part of the logo there as an electronic resource, so we can, why don't we go there next, Wes, and then we can
Yeah.
talk there.
All right.
All
So
right,
we'll
we're hopping. Yeah, we're going up the list now. So yeah, we'll just go to acceptable computer network use, 4118.5. This one was one, yeah, I'm going to kind of defer to the group. I am looking both at the CABE and Shipman and Goodwin. I always lean more towards Shipman and Goodwin because of their less granularity in their language. They're very good at saying a lot with one sentence. I really do enjoy that. But I do like CABE's. It does mention, am I looking at the right one? No, that's a different one. I thought this one had a student sign sheet, but that's the other one that we skipped. That's for later. But yeah, I do enjoy reading the Shipman and Goodwin one a little bit more because it's more concise. It puts the responsibility on the user's end, and it's less granular for us to kind of hunt and peck on what exactly they did. It's just they used the items. But yeah, I'm free to talk about or answer any questions people have on the Shipman and Goodwin one.
I think what I noticed in this one too is just philosophically, it puts a lot of the specifics into regulations. So again, if we've
Yeah.
got that broader policy and on something like this where there needs to perhaps be a future-proof kind of stuff that if the regulations can adapt more quickly and nimbly as technology advances and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, a great example is I believe 2 of these regulations were literally changed for COVID for acceptable use of the state. So I kind of lean towards that always.
Any questions from board members on this one? Karen, is there anything, because this is obviously a personnel policy, is there anything that stuck out to you, or is this fine from a personnel standpoint?
No, it fits with what we currently do.
So Ken, this is where I was trying to describe what you were bringing up before. So paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't speak to exactly what I described, but the electronic resource for the purpose of personal gain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that in the RPS policy?
In the RPS or the Shipman?
The one that's labeled RPS policy
Okay.
in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I was speaking to with respect to the folks using our resources, let's just say a digital resource for the
Okay.
purpose of financial gain, right?
And Susie, yeah, I don't think the policy uses the word logo,
No,
but we've used policy in that respect. And we've also used town charter that says we can't use our personal position or our professional position for personal gain. So we've done both. So I think we're covered in many areas in that respect.
So I know that and so I was just trying to decipher, because I know we say it's essentially what covers this is you can't use our network for personal gain, though it isn't explicitly stated a personal device on our network, which might need to be explicit. I know it's implicit in that if you use our network at all, but there's a lot of language about our equipment and all of that also in there. So does it make sense to because we also have a bring your own device policy in here somewhere. So,
Yeah.
so for example, if somebody is accessing, let's say, and again, I think we talked about this a little bit, Dr. De Silva, like on their lunch break or on their personal time, are they allowed to use our network to solicit business or to respond to a personal client? For example, like let's say use our pickleball coach. Can he use our network to organize a pickleball tournament or line up pickleball lessons outside of school during school time, or is that considered incidental use, which we do cover, even though he's making money?
I mean, I look at it as an incidental use. I could look at if a teacher's using their Chromebook during their lunch break to check their Robinhood account, and now
Sure.
they've just made money.
Right.
Because they're using school network and technology to access something, but they're not. Yeah, it's yeah.
So Karen, you may be in the position to answer this question best, but the reality is, I think it's reasonable when someone has their lunch break that is duty free, right? They're not expected to be engaged in professional responsibilities at that time. And so I think one could argue that personal business, let's say, quote unquote, during your lunchtime is appropriate. Now, the second part of the question is, though, on our network. So let's just say that there was personal gain with a resource that we would not deem as appropriate, but they decided to access that resource using our network. That I think it would be less, then I think would revert to the other policy, which was around social networking and thinking about, or if that was really social networking, but exercising care and good judgment on the resources that you're using. So I think a lot of these are intertwined because of the nature of technology and the nature of use. But I think outside of your duty-free 30 minutes, then using our network for personal reasons would not be appropriate. But Karen, I don't know if you want to opine there.
Well, so certainly on work time is a deal breaker. If you're doing personal stuff on work time, that is very different. I will say that I'm struggling a little bit with the use of our network, as Wes said, being an incidental thing, because we are encouraging everybody, put your Wi-Fi on, use Wi-Fi calling. So we have a culture of encouraging use of our Wi-Fi, just in general, whether it's your work phone or your any phone. So that's where I think it'd be harder to monitor that work. I think it would be more accidental than intentional, but that's just my preliminary thought. So I don't know Wes's more thought on that. Obviously doing personal stuff during work time is non-acceptable.
Yeah, and I totally agree. There is, depending on which school you work at, you might not have any cell connection, and your Wi-Fi calling is the only way you have a connection to the outside world.
Yeah.
And, I think, Karen said it best. I think if that happens, it's mostly accidental because I need to use the network to call home or call the painters or call something. I think it's a very strange gray area where we cut this, but I don't want to make a draconian policy as of right now that would kind of hamper us from, using the network. But yeah, it's a very good point, Ken. It's a very, very good point.
Well, I think also where my concerns are coming from might even be more appropriately addressed by conflict of interest policies. So,
Yeah.
so that is, I think really where my primary concern lies. So sort of
Right, so if I, outside of my role of a superintendent, or outside of my role as of a teacher, I tutor students on the side that happen to be children in my school. Might be where a conflict of interest policy would apply, right? Some of that conflict of interest, actually, some of it bleeds into the teacher's contract.
You can't tutor your own kids. You have to.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that during my work time. And I'm emailing the parent that, is a parent of a child in my school. Is that what the example that you might be thinking about, Ken?
Yeah, something similar to that, but it is separate, I think, from Dr. DeSantis's policies that we're discussing.
So Ken, we have an example of, so say you tutor in algebra. You cannot go into Power School, figure out all the kids who are going to take algebra next year, get the parents' email, and then email those parents, even from your personal email, saying, hey, do your child need tutoring? Like, we do have conflict of interest regulations against that kind of practice, using our network, our information for your personal gain.
And any checks that we have on that, is that a separate sort of a security discussion?
I don't know
Not
if it'd be
so
security.
yeah.
We have
How do we
FERPA
police
laws,
that?
and because, like, say for Power School, the only access that we have to that information is anybody directly working with the student. So we do have protocols in place that would prohibit just a general person getting access to who's in somebody else's algebra class, because it's not their class. They should not have access to that.
Right, but so what's to stop a teacher from accessing it?
Well, they can't get in.
They
So
can't physically.
They can't. It's all on. So if I'm a teacher, I can only see my 25 students, and which means I can't have access to grades or anything from anyone else. And if I'm tutoring, I can't, and it's a policy where I can't tutor my own children. Therefore, it would have to go to someone else. We do have, in an instance, if I have a physics teacher, a different physics teacher in the district can tutor that kid, but not the same teacher. And that teacher doesn't have access. The tutoring teacher doesn't have access to the Power School account and the grade book, or the Google of that student. So
I don't want to take away from, I think, the policy discussion that we need to be having, but like I would have a question around, well, what if, like, say, a department chair, would a department chair have access to all of the students taking physics?
they could, absolutely.
They could.
And we would want them to, right?
All right, of course.
The question is, we expect, because of our practices and are setting the expectations for our faculty, that they adhere to our policies and they're not using the access to that population of kids or families for their personal use. And if they did, then they would go through the process like anyone would with discipline, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I just want to be cognizant of the time because I know you guys have to hop on to something else. Is this one, do we feel comfortable bringing this to the full board for a read and we can still ask some questions there? I think it's good to, we would want to like think about this one at the same time we're thinking about the other one. Because they are so intertwined. All right, perfect. So we'll move this one on. Thank you, everybody. Productive meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second? Tina? All right, we're adjourned.
thank you, everyone.